Okay, let's dive into this. You think sport, right? You probably picture the athletes, the roar of the crowd, maybe a coach yelling from the sidelines.
Yeah, that's the image most people have.
But what if I told you that was just the very, very tip of a truly massive global industry?
It really is. And this deep dive, using the source material you shared, is all about pulling back the curtain on the sheer scale and, honestly, the incredible diversity of career paths within the world of sport.
It's way, way bigger than most people imagine.
Absolutely.
Our mission today is, well, to navigate this information together, like guides exploring a new map.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to help you see the surprising scope and potential here, and perhaps, just maybe, pinpoint where your unique skills, maybe skills you never, ever thought would fit in sport, could actually find a home and, thrive.
And we're going to share some numbers, especially from places like the EU, that really highlight the economic muscle of this sector globally.
Ah, the numbers.
Get ready for those figures.
Yeah.
They might genuinely surprise you. They certainly surprised me a bit.
Okay, so how do we even begin to, like, get our heads around such a huge industry? The source material gives us a really helpful way to structure it.
It does. It breaks down the sport ecosystem into different levels.
All right, different layers.
Yeah, it's like understanding the different layers where all this work happens. At the broadest, kind of highest level, you have international and commercial sport.
So the big global players.
Like the global institutions, yeah, the massive commercial entities operating worldwide, IOC, FIFA, that sort of thing.
Okay. Then down from there, we hit the national sports structures.
Right. These are the federations, the National Olympic Committees, the public agencies focused on sport, but within a specific country's borders.
Okay, national level. And then?
And then the foundation, really the bedrock, grassroots and local sport. This is your community clubs, schools, municipalities, local NGOs.
Where most people actually experience sport day to day.
Exactly, where it's often delivered directly to people in their neighborhoods.
What's fascinating here, and a key takeaway, I think, from the source, is that opportunities aren't just clustered at the very top, chasing the global spotlight.
Not at all.
They exist everywhere within the structure, from helping manage a local youth league, maybe, to coordinating policy on an international stage.
That's a crucial point. And to give you a sense of just how big this whole structure is, let's look at the numbers presented in the source, particularly for the EU.
Okay, hit me with them.
Sport accounts for over 5 million jobs there.
Hold on, over 5 million jobs. Just in the EU.
Just in the EU. It's pretty staggering.
That is staggering.
It is. That's 2.12% of total EU employment.
Yeah.
And the economic impact is, well, equally significant, 279.7 billion.
Wow. So almost 280 billion euros.
Making up 2.6% of the EU's GDP.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just jobs. It's a substantial contributor to the economy, a really serious one. And globally.
Worldwide, the sports industry is valued at over $600 billion.
600 billion.
Yeah. And what's really interesting when you look at these numbers, especially the EU ones, is that the economic impact share, that 2.6% of GDP, it's actually higher relative to the employment share, the 2.12%.
No. What does that suggest?
Well, it could indicate, a higher productivity within the industry compared to the general economy. It suggests it's a pretty dynamic sector, creating significant value.
That is an interesting insight. So it's massive, economically powerful. But what are people doing in these 5 million plus jobs? It's clearly not all athletes and coaches.
No, not by a long shot.
Huh.
The source breaks down the different types of activities really well.
Okay.
They separate core sport activities from sport-related industries.
Okay, core activities first. This feels maybe more intuitive.
Probably. These are the roles directly tied to the practice of sport itself. Training and coaching, so developing athletes.
Right.
Competitions and events, the actual organizing and running of games and tournaments.
Makes sense.
And performance and health. So supporting athlete, physical and mental well-being, conditioning, things like that. These are roles fundamentally about the athletic side.
Got it. But then the sport-related industries. This is where the scope just explodes, right?
Absolutely. This covers huge sectors that are connected to sport but exist, beyond the direct playing field.
Like?
Think equipment and apparel, designing, manufacturing, selling everything from shoes and balls to jerseys and tech gear.
Okay, huge market there.
Then facility management, running stadiums, arenas, training centers, local sports halls.
Keeping the lights on, literally.
Media broadcasting, telling the stories, broadcasting the games, creating content.
Which we're kind of part of, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
Yep.
And sponsorship and marketing, connecting brands with teams, events, athletes. This is massive business.
So you could be, I don't know, an engineer working on shoe design, or a broadcast producer, like you said, or a marketing strategist,
Exactly.
but all focused entirely within the world of sport. That opens up a ton of possibilities for skills developed completely outside traditional sport contexts.
It really highlights how diverse the required expertise is. You don't necessarily need to have played the sport at a high level.
Right.
And the source adds another crucial layer: supportive services.
Supportive services. Okay, what falls under that?
Think of these as the areas outside the immediate sport bubble that are absolutely essential for its functioning and its broader impact on society.
Okay, like connecting sport to government, maybe.
Exactly. Public policy. This is the governmental side, creating sport legislation, managing funding programs, developing national strategies that enable sport to happen.
From elite programs right down to community initiatives.
Precisely.
Or connecting sport to learning, is that one?
Yes, education. This includes everything from university degrees in sports science or management to coaching certifications and vocational training programs. It's about building the knowledge base and developing the workforce for the entire industry.
Makes sense. You need trained people.
And linking sport to community well-being, health and well-being. Using sport medicine for athletes, yes, but also leveraging sport as a tool in public health initiatives, rehabilitation programs, community health projects.
So using sport for a wider social good.
Absolutely. These services really show how sport intersects with and can contribute to broader societal functions.
Okay, so public policy, education, health areas critical to society generally that have entire specialist branches just dedicated to sport.
Right.
That's another whole avenue for careers. Now, if we want to work in one of these areas, any of them really, who would we actually work for? The source lists the different kinds of organizations involved.
Right. It maps onto those levels we discussed earlier: international, national, local, but adds more detail about the specific types of employers.
So, starting big.
You have the big international organizations. Think IOC, FIFA, UEFA, the International Paralympic Committee, or IPC.
The global governing bodies and event organizers?
It's exactly. If you're interested in global events, sustainability on a worldwide scale, coordinating policy across continents, anti-doping, these are key employers. Roles in operations, policy development.
Okay. Then stepping down a level.
The national governing bodies.
Right.
So your country's specific sport federations like the FA in England or USA Swimming. Also national Olympic committees, government sport agencies.
And what's their main focus?
They focus mostly on developing sport within their nation, managing domestic competitions, supporting clubs, talent pathways, that kind of thing.
Got it. And at the community level?
The regional and local institutions. City municipalities managing parks and rec facilities, schools running sport programs, local community clubs.
This is where a lot of people get their start, maybe volunteering first.
Often, yeah. These are vital for accessibility and grassroots participation. Managing facilities, running local events, coaching kids.
Okay. And then there's the commercial side.
Right, where a lot of the money and marketing happens. Commercial and hybrid entities. Private companies making gear, marketing agencies, global brands sponsoring things, media companies.
So roles in marketing, sales, private event management, sponsorship deals, content creation purely for commercial purposes.
Exactly, a huge area. And finally, the source mentions support and advocacy organizations.
What falls under that category?
Think NGOs using sport for development programs, like helping communities in need through sport, or think tanks researching and shaping sport policy from an independent perspective. Educational platforms providing online training resources.
So organizations often focused on specific missions or driving change within or through sport.
Precisely.
That's a really clear breakdown of who is hiring across this whole landscape. To make this feel even more real, the source includes a few examples, doesn't it? Real people's journeys.
It does, and they really highlight the diverse entry points we've been talking about. Take Marta Costa. Her background is in political science.
Political science. You wouldn't automatically think sport career, right?
Not typically. But she focused on sport policy within her political science studies.
Ah, okay.
She landed an internship at the Portuguese Institute for Sport in Youth, the IPDJ, and is now a project manager working on international cooperation projects in sport.
Wow.
Her quote perfectly captures it. "I never thought my political science degree would lead me to sport."
That's fantastic. It shows how skills in policy, governance, international relations, they're highly valuable in sport.
Definitely. It's a great example of a non-traditional pathway.
What about someone from a different angle? Media, maybe?
Yeah, look at Peter Norland. His career is squarely in media and broadcasting.
Okay.
He started at the European Broadcasting Union, rose to become CEO of Eurosport.
Okay, job.
Huge job. And is now Chief Sports Officer at Warner Bros. Discovery Sports Europe.
So that's a powerful vertical growth path right within the sport media world.
Absolutely. And his quote, "Working with sport institutions across Europe showed me how complex and collaborative this sector is. It really highlights that intricate relationship between media companies and the sport organizations themselves. It's not just about broadcasting. It's about partnerships."
Good point. And there was a third example.
Yes, Lisa Wainwright. She started right at the core as a physical education teacher.
PE teacher, building those fundamental skills right there on the ground.
Exactly. From teaching, she moved into national policy roles at UK Sport, working on national initiatives and strategy development.
Okay, so from practice, like hands-on teaching, into policy.
Yes, and then continuing to rise, she became CEO of the Sport and Recreation Alliance in the UK and is now an international speaker on sport policy and leadership.
Wow, what a trajectory.
Her journey shows a clear path from teaching to policy development to executive leadership. It proves you can grow significantly within the sector and transition between different types of roles, from delivery to strategy to leadership.
These stories really drive home that point. Your current background, whatever it is, might have a place in sport if you find the right niche.
It really could.
And speaking of pathways in the future, the source also points to major global trends that are shaping career opportunities moving forward.
Yeah, these trends are critical to understand because they indicate where the growth is, where the new types of jobs are emerging.
So what's first?
First, global employment trends, specifically mobility. Think about the massive international events, World Cups, Olympics. They need diverse, multicultural teams to run them.
Makes sense. People from all over.
And talent recruitment is increasingly global. Professionals are moving between countries more often, and even between different types of sport organizations or related industries, like moving from a federation to a brand.
So geographic flexibility and cultural awareness are becoming really key assets for anyone looking at this field.
Hugely important. What else is driving change?
Well, the big one everywhere, digital transformation.
Of course, big time. This covers everything from using virtual reality for, say, athlete training or fan engagement to leveraging data analytics. And that's not just for player performance, but also for business operations, marketing, fan understanding.
Right, the business sides here.
And then there's content creation for social media, streaming platforms, websites, apps, plus the absolute explosion of esports, all creating entirely new roles.
So data analysts, content creators, social media managers, VR developers, esports coordinators, all finding roles specifically in sport now.
Absolutely. If you're digitally savvy, sport needs you. There's no question.
Okay, what's another key trend?
Another vital trend is sustainability and social responsibility. This is getting bigger and bigger. Sport is increasingly recognized and expected to be a powerful platform for promoting sustainable development and inclusion, often aligning with frameworks like the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs.
The SDGs, those are those global goals for tackling big issues like poverty, inequality, climate change. Right?
That's them.
So sport is being actively used to help achieve those.
Exactly. And this means growing roles focused on environmental, social, and governance ESG principles within sport organizations.
Like what kind of roles?
Roles focused on answering, how can our events reduce their environmental footprint? How can our club promote gender equality? How can we use sport to provide opportunities for disadvantaged communities? These are becoming core business functions, not just nice-to-haves.
That connects back strongly to that idea of sport being a platform for societal change we mentioned earlier.
It really does. And finally, the source points of growth in emerging markets.
Okay, where specifically?
Yes, identifying regions with significant current and future investment. Africa, with increasing focus on infrastructure and youth sport development. The Middle East, hosting major global events and building world-class facilities. And Southeast Asia, with rapidly growing markets for event management, sport tourism, and sport education.
So potentially exciting future hubs for sport employment in those regions.
Definitely areas to watch.
Okay, so these trends, mobility, digital, sustainability, emerging markets, they really explain why certain skills, maybe skills developed outside the traditional sport realm, are becoming so essential.
They absolutely do. And the source is quite clear on the key skills you need to cultivate to succeed in these evolving careers.
Such as?
Multilingual abilities are huge, almost essential for international work, collaborating across borders.
Makes sense with the global mobility trend.
Digital literacy is basically non-negotiable now. That covers everything from data analysis and understanding metrics to creating compelling digital content and using online platforms effectively.
Right, can't avoid digital.
Cross-cultural competence.
Ugh.
Being able to work effectively in diverse international teams is
Right.
crucial. Understanding different perspectives.
Again, ties back to mobility and global events.
And sustainability knowledge. Understanding ESG principles and, importantly, how to implement them in a sport context. This is increasingly valued.
So if you're looking at this field, maybe map your existing skills against these and see where you need to level up.
That's a great way to think about it.
Which brings us neatly to career planning. How can someone take all this information we've discussed, the ecosystem, the different jobs, the trends, the key skills, and turn it into a concrete plan? What's the advice from the source?
The source provides a pretty clear, actionable roadmap, which is really helpful.
Good. Step one.
First, identify your interests. Look back at that ecosystem, grassroots, national, international, commercial, supportive services. Where does your passion really lie? Which activities or services genuinely resonate with you?
So don't just chase a job title. Figure out what part of this vast landscape genuinely excites you.
Exactly. Self-reflection first. Second, research organizations. Find specific institutions, companies, clubs, NGOs that align with your values and your goals. Who is doing the kind of work that looks interesting to you?
Start making a target list.
Right. Third, develop key skills. Look honestly at those trends we just discussed, digital sustainability, etc. Look at the roles in the organizations you researched. Identify your skill gaps. What do you need to learn or improve?
Be honest with yourself about where you need to grow.
For sure. And fourth, build your network. This is vital in any industry, and sport is certainly no different. Connect with people already working in the areas you're interested in. Use LinkedIn. Go to events if you can. Informational interviews. Learn from their experiences.
Good advice. And the source really boils this down into clear, actionable, your next steps, right?
Yes, very practical steps. First, choose maybe 3 areas of interest within that sport ecosystem that align with your passions and perhaps your existing skills. Don't try to boil the ocean.
Focus your search, okay?
Second, select specific target organizations. Identify maybe 5 to 10 actual places where you could realistically see yourself working or maybe interning.
Make it concrete.
Third, pinpoint your skill gaps. Be really specific about what abilities you need to build based on those target roles and the trends we discussed. Is it data analysis, a specific language, project management?
Know what you need to learn.
And finally, create an action plan. Write down concrete steps. How will you acquire those skills? Online courses, volunteering, a specific project. How will you gain relevant experience? How will you make connections at those target organizations?
It takes this huge, potentially overwhelming picture and makes it feel much more manageable. Like you can actually take steps to get into it.
It really turns the information into a potential pathway for you, the listener.
So reflecting on everything we've unpacked from the source material today, it's just incredibly clear that the world of sport careers is not just vast and growing, but it's deeply intertwined with technology, with sustainability, with major global shifts. It's complex.
It is. And the source leaves us with that powerful reminder. Global sport is more than events and medals. It's a platform for societal change.
That idea really changes the game, doesn't it? It positions sport not just as entertainment, which it is, but also as a potential force for good in the world.
A tool, even.
A tool, yeah. So thinking about that platform for change and considering everything we've covered today about the diverse roles, the skills needed, the different organizations, the trends, here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
What specific problem could you tackle, or what positive change could you help create by applying your unique skills, whatever they may be, within this powerful, complex global industry? It's a huge space with needs that stretch far, far beyond just the playing field. Something to think about.